I'm Jerry Agar for Ezra Levant. It's summertime and the bicycle wars have started up again. In all the cities I've lived in, and it's been a few, the car and the bike do not get along. I blame the bike. Well, okay, the rider. Cities across the country are adding bike lanes, partly to try to ease the situation and partly because city councils like green. They see the bike as green, but don't seem willing to acknowledge that too high a percentage of bicycle riders are scofflaws who think the road is theirs. In my experience and my opinion, while I'm willing to share the road with bicycles, too many of them are not willing to share the road with anyone. And until they and their advocacy groups start taking some more responsibility, they don't deserve bike lanes in the city. The city of Vancouver is welcoming public input on a draft transportation plan for 2040, which includes plans for expanding bicycle routes. Last week, Vancouver voted in favor of launching a public bike share system by spring 2013 and permanent separated bike lanes in downtown. The city envisions 1,500 bicycles at 125 rental stations in the downtown and metro core at a cost of almost $20 million. A couple more streets in downtown Calgary will have new bike lanes installed this summer, according to city officials. That elicited this comment on a web page. Have you ever actually seen a bike courier in Calgary obey the rules of the road? Well, that's my point. Here's what happened in Toronto. The coroner put out a report indicating that bike safety would be increased by adding metal skirting to the sides of big trucks so that bicycles could not slip under the truck in an accident. He called for more bike lanes and mandatory helmet use for adults as well as children. Bicycle advocates were okay with the additions to the trucks that cost them nothing. They approve of the bike lanes as it gives them more space but offloads the cost on everyone, not just them. But helmets? Oh no, don't mess with Mr. and Mrs. Preciously Green on their two-wheeled conveyance. That calls for responsibility on the part of the bike rider, and too many of them want no part of that. And the problems I see with arrogant bicycle riders who continually run red lights, pop illegally onto the sidewalk, and misuse crosswalks is not confined to the city. I got an email from a listener who lives in the country. Hi, Jerry. I live in Caledon, and we have problems with cycle clubs. The first sign of spring, the cycle clubs appear on the country roads in Caledon. It appears the rules of the road do not apply to cyclists. Last week, I was traveling north on Mississauga Road, came up behind two women riding side by side. I beeped my horn, and one of the riders gave me the one-finger salute. Cyclists will actually encourage one another to ride side by side for safety, which is reasonable, but also to ignore the faster traffic as they have the right to the road just as cars do. Well, yes, they do, but they also have to follow the law as cars do. I've also seen bicycle riders take great exception to pedestrians walking side by side and blocking walking biking paths in parks. Double standard. From the coroner's report on cycling deaths, Don Cass, Ontario's Deputy Chief Coroner, says that cyclist deaths are preventable. Awareness and respect for the rules of the road by all road users are integral to preventing these deaths. The rules of the road need to apply equally to everyone, but in practice and reality, they simply don't. A cyclist is not licensed and doesn't pay insurance. If a car driver is cited for enough infractions, they lose the right and privilege to drive. This doesn't happen to cyclists. A car driver who gets a number of tickets will see their insurance rates skyrocket. Again, this doesn't apply to cyclists. Cyclists seem to believe that many rules of the road are optional. Sure, there are bad drivers out there, but when was the last time you saw a car go through every stop sign along a stretch of road? Cyclists do it regularly, knowing the police will do nothing. A local reporter recently admitted that she was stopped by a cop who announced that after he'd seen her go through 3 red lights, he was warning her not to do it again. Try to get that warning in a car or on a motorcycle. Many on bikes can't seem to decide whether they're pedestrians or vehicles and may change their mind numerous times while traveling. We've all seen the cyclist who decides the sidewalk's the way to go to avoid a red light and then magically become a vehicle again on the other side of the intersection. Occasionally, pedestrians are hit, injured, even killed by rogue cyclists on sidewalks. Cities add bike lanes to try and alleviate congestion. Is having more cars and bikes interacting really the best way to proceed? Not if cyclists are going to continue to decide which rules they'll follow and if police and City Hall are going to let them get away with it. Again, any problem can be worked out if everyone wants to cooperate. And I'm sure cyclists have legitimate complaints about car and truck drivers. But in my experience, the people most likely to want it all their way are the bike riders. And here's what I find really amazing. I'm a motorcycle rider, and sometimes, even when I know I have the right of way, I give it up. I'd rather be alive. I see a lot of bicycle riders with a death wish, and that wish can easily come true. And how realistic is biking to work for most people? Would you like to be stuck in a meeting with somebody who biked in for an hour in the morning in the summer? Unless you have a shower on site, that would make for a wonderful smell. Should we really be spending money on a mode of transportation that realistically might be used 4 months of the year? The rest of the time, it's either too hot or there's too much snow on the ground. This is Canada.